What was your effort, done helping others moment? A friend of mine borrowed a game off me once. About a month later I remembered and asked for it. He told me he couldn't give it back because he gave it to his younger brother for his birthday. Would have asked for money, but I knew it would have been difficult, and the way I saw it was easier to just lose him as a friend. His friendship was worth less than the value of a cheap game. When a good friend of mine that I worked under had cancer and wasn't able to pay some bills, I loaned her $200 just to help. I was only 18 at the time and felt bad because she had kids. It was right around the holidays and I just wanted to help however I could and be a good person in life. She promised to pay me back when she could. Turns out she lied about having cancer. Was stealing from the company I worked at. Scammed my other co-workers. And would come in after calling out of work for her chemo to make fraudulent returns while I was overseeing the store by myself because of her calling out. Got that BTCH fired and got promoted to her position after. Had a newish neighbor ask if he could borrow our lawnmower. Sure. Well, more or less every week he would come and get it out of our garage. Use it to cut his grass. Put it away without cleaning it or adding gas. In the fall we mentioned it was a good time to get deals on a new mower. He never talked to us again. My next door neighbor is the opposite. Which I am grateful for. I supply the mower. She mows both of our lawns. And we split the gas when she lets me. I feel bad that she won't even let me give her gas money most of the time. Especially since she is doing all of the manual labor. Edit. So. I just sent her a quick text today to ask her how much I owe her for gas. She replied that she is sticking her garbage in my garbage can. I forgot I told her she could. So I owe her nothing. You have to pay per garbage can here, nearly $4 per can. So it all evens out. I'm a teacher. A parent of a former student contacted me in an emergency situation. Couldn't afford to pay bills. And needed help. She was super helpful to me in my first year teaching. So I asked friends and family to help out and raised her about $2,000. Never again. She has contacted me every few weeks since then. Always with a new reason why she needs more money, and when I offer food and clothing resources, she refuses it. It has placed me in such an awkward situation and I regret ever trying to help her out in the first place. When I had a truck during college, everyone suddenly wanted me to help move them. Most were cool and gave me money or ordered pizza, unprompted BTW. One time however some dude I barely knew needed some help. I show up. And nothing is packed in his apartment. He had a giant fish tank and lived on the 3rd floor with no elevator. It was a f***ing nightmare and I never got a dime nor food or even some beers. I never talked to him after that. You see the real side of people if they ask you to help them move and what they offer in return. I helped move a relative from one apartment to another. Which ended up being an all-day event because I lived far from where they were and where they were going. The girlfriend of the family member didn't even lift her f***ing finger to help either. The best part is when we had separate vehicles after packing up leaving the moved out apartment. The family member and his GF we were moving went and got food with her parents and didn't even tell us. We waited at their new place for 30 minutes before they showed up. They stopped at some deli and didn't even tell us. Or offer to buy us lunch. Never again. After working free of charge as a freelance graphics guy to build my portfolio up. And having a client basically make the most minor of adjustments. And constant revisions. 4 posters which should have taken me a day tops really. Ended up taking 3 months. And when they wanted poster X4. I wanted money, ghosted. Lesson learnt. I used to help people plan their trips to Japan. It was very hard to get started on my own, so I offered weeks of free consulting to a few people in exchange for a review at the end of their trip. I made their itineraries. Wrote a tailored culture guide for each. Booked their hotels, restaurants. Gave them recommendations. Etc. Only 1 person out of 8 actually wrote a review. We were asleep one night with window open. We wake up, BC, there is a couple walking down the road arguing. The girl is closer than the guy. Next thing we know, the girl is banging on door begging to come in. We call police. They get there and couple gone. They tell us that's a common ruse being used in area to get you to open doors so they can rob you. We have helped out my sister-in-law a few times with money bills. Never a lot. $50 here. $100 there. Usually for some bill to avoid services being cut off. I'm usually the more heartfelt one in my marriage. But I ended up being the one to put my foot down. Went over to her apartment once. She had 2 big flat screen TVs. New couch. New fridge. Kids on PlayStation or whatever console she got them. It was all rent-a-center stuff. But that was the end for me. I didn't have any of those things myself. Not to mention the incredibly bad financial decision those things were with the high interest rate. Part of me felt like I was taking food out of her kids' mouths. But realized that no. Her poor decisions was doing that. I have neighbors across the road who we extended ourselves to help out because they had young kids and seemed to be struggling. Well, they were really starting to take advantage to the point where we couldn't walk out of our house without them literally yelling for us because they needed a phone, a ladder, money, someone to drive them somewhere, diapers, our Wi-Fi password, our wood, etc. etc. This started happening every day and multiple times a day. It became ridiculous and oppressive. They have since pulled that shit with everyone else on our road. Wearing out one generous person after the other. Ones who realize people are merely moochers and are content to remain so. That's when you're done. The day I realized that no one wanted to help me in return. Look, it's not about doing something for someone to get something back, and I will always help whoever I can that needs it. But when the same people consistently ask for help or money or what have you, without actually wanting to help you when you need it, or just hang out or be friendly in general, it's a huge red flag. One day I found a puppy. Dirty. Hungry. And just scared and lost. I gave him a good meal. And some love. And went to drop him off at the address on his collar. The dude thanked me. Then proceeded to beat the crap out of the dog, telling me to mind my own business when I tried to get him to stop. Carried him by his collar to a 5-foot short chain in a muddy patch with a crappy broken 3-wall doghouse where I'm guessing the dog spent 100% of its time. I called the cops. But they did nothing. The dog technically had shelter. Which qualifies BC 3 walls and a roof. Even if it was filled with holes and it gets 20 at night here. Close bracket. PS. I stole the dog 3 weeks later. Me and my GF were leaving a McDonald's and pulling up to the stoplight. There's this homeless old man that we've seen around the area ever since we moved here, and my GF decides, since we've never given anything to this guy and he's always there, we should give him one of our McDoubles. He comes up to the car, says thank you, and walks back to his corner as the light turns green and just tosses it on the road right in front of where we're driving. When I rushed to another state about 2,000 miles away to help my sister because of a medical issue. And for whatever reason she decided to have her neighbor help her instead. Without letting me know. It was 3 months ago and she is fine but still has not contacted me. That was the end for me. This is more specific to the teeny tiny town I used to live in. Used to believe I was valued by the community. Used to actually believe in that community spirit. That soul, if you will. I had seen it and participated in it. When I left my marriage of almost 13 years, there had been about 10 years of domestic violence. I well and truly thought the community would help me out if I needed it and reached out. As I had seen so many other times in the 15 years I had lived there. Nope. Got quite the opposite. Nobody believed me. People who I thought were friends disappeared. People who I thought were friends played the "it wasn't really that bad, was it?" card. People that I thought I could trust to help keep me safe by not tell anyone where I was living went straight to my abuser with that info. Hardly anyone would even speak to me. Even just to say hi. When I needed acknowledgement most. Fuck all of those fucks. I was 16. Only had €10 with me. Homeless lady begging for money. I tell her I won't give her money. Went to the local supermarket. Bought 2 packs of milk, some bread, some cookies, a bottle of juice and some cooked chicken. Went and gave it to her. With all kindness. 1 hour later I pass by the same street. And everything is on the floor thrown away. Not even eaten or open. My mom did this for a guy on the corner one time. Pulled off the side to McDonald's and got him a bunch of food and circled back around to give it to him. He straight told her because he was an addict he couldn't keep down solid food. He took the drink and thanked her, but she looked completely defeated. I was 17 and still in school. The corridors were empty as my teacher sent me out to go do her a job. So I was just walking down the corridor when this girl carrying a bunch of books bumped into me and she dropped the books, like you see in a movie. So I apologized because I wasn't really paying attention, and I bend down and get the books for her and hand them to her expecting at least a small thanks. But no. Instead this chick had to say I have a boyfriend, so never ever purposely bump into me just so I can talk to you. You should have walked away. As she begins to turn away I grab her shoulder, which makes her turn around, and I knock the books out of her hand and say now that was on purpose, and I walked away whilst she was stood there speechless. Some of you may think that was messed up, but I don't really regret a single bit of it, as she got what she deserved. Was donating baby toddler clothes to a mom in need through one of those Facebook donating pages. She didn't have a car. I did, so I drove 30 minutes away to deliver the stuff all for free. Got in a bad accident less than 5 blocks from her house. So I texted her to see if she could come get what she was able to because my car was totaled. She wouldn't walk the 4 blocks, then reported me to the group and got me kicked out for not following through. I ended up with a fractured sternum. Yo FCK that shit. Never again. Not me, but my parents. My cousin moved in with us for 2 years when I was a kid. She's 18 years older than me. She ended up being a drug addict that smoked in the house. Stole money. Couldn't hold down a job. And mercilessly picked on my sister and I until the day she got kicked out. That was almost 30 years ago. To this day my parents refuse to let anyone move in because they just need a place to stay until they're back on their feet. Double quote. I used to counsel juvenile delinquents from poor backgrounds. After spending a day of getting cussed out for my efforts, I applied for law school. If I'm going to argue all day, I might as well get paid. I spent 5 years working with the poor. And I think that's the only time I actually helped move anyone out of poverty. I'm a nice person. I look after people. Colleague is sick. I go out and buy cough medicine or paracetamol for them. Got no food? I'll get you a takeaway. I never expected anything in return, but one day I was asked for money. I did. Not Allet. It was like a Q20. And they eventually gave it back. Then they asked again. And again. Never wanted food. Or a train ticket. Just money. Then the last time I lent them money, he walked straight into a betting shop and put money on a football game. That was it. Full stop. He asked me for more money some time later and I said no. Guy literally throws a tantrum, I'd always help you out. I give it back. I thought we were mates. Double quote. I don't fund gambling addictions. And haven't given him or anyone else help again. Just looking after me now. I had a live on-site summer job where I became good friends with this hippie couple in their later 20s. When the job in summer ended, I had to go back to college and move into my new apartment with 2 roommates. Arranged at the end of last semester. The couple needed a place to stay and I let them crash for a couple days. 2 months later I was the arsehole that had pissed off my roommates and had to toss the hippies. Too bad. We were really good friends and the overstaying their welcome had really spoiled it. I wouldn't say I'm done helping others. But I changed the way that I do it. A homeless man asked me if I would buy him something from the store. I did it. Then he tried to trick me into buying more. His scamming strategy was pretty clever and I can see how people fall for it. But I caught on, thankfully. Now I focus on broad community initiatives, and if I do give someone something, it's only in situations where I know I am 100% safe and can leave immediately. I crashed my car covering a co-worker's shift. They needed help because they couldn't find a sitter and I get guilted into covering all the time. That wasn't the time. My it moment was a month later. After I finally saved up enough for a new car. It was stolen outside of my work when I was covering a co-worker's shift. When I needed help or my shifts covered. Oh sorry, I'm busy, I can't. Double quote. I often donate to causes I feel strongly about and still do to this day. Now typically it may not be a ton of money, $20 a month as an example, but my rule is, if they contact you for more money you're likely going to have to discontinue. One group called me and basically belittled the amount of money I was giving, saying they really need people who are contributing $100 a month or more. Or large one-time donations. I immediately told them to stop any further payments from autopay and to stop contacting me. It makes me reconsider charitable giving altogether. Cleaning a room that has had a COVID-positive teacher in it. Only for a teacher to walk in mid-clean, touch a bunch of stuff all while admitting they know they shouldn't be in the room. I've lost a bunch of faith in humanity today with similar instances that have happened over the past 2 days. A friend bought a car and I thought I'd be nice and help her out by fixing it for a lower rate than any of the local shops. Next thing I knew she was trying to get me to rebuild the car. I was done at that point. That time in Red Dead Redemption where this woman was dying and I searched all over to find an elixir for her, and when I gave it to her she was like, "Thank you Jesus. Jesus brought you to me." Double quote. I was playing RDR2. A hunter in the woods had been attacked by some wolves. I killed them wolves and tried to give him some potent health cure. He slapped it out of my hand and said he wanted whiskey. So I just rode away on my horse and left him bleed out. Once dated this girl who was down and out in her life. She had just lost her job. She had no money, etc. I started dating her and fell in love with her. She definitely had baggage, but that didn't matter. She was beautiful to me and everything I ever wanted. I vowed to help her get back on her feet. I moved her in with me and helped her look for work. Eventually, she got a job at a place that was a 5-minute walk from home. And I felt like everything was working out. About 6 months later, I catch her with one of her co-workers in his car. Never date a fixer-upper. Folks. I once had to make an HTML website for a school project in high school. Since I sucked with computers and our teacher didn't actually teach us anything, I asked a friend who was good with computers to make the web page for me. My friend did an awesome job, so I thought I'd be a sport and help the rest of the class who were as clueless as I was. And share my project with them so they can copy the structure and just change the topic and pictures or whatever. Only to find out a week later that one guy submitted the exact thing I shared without changing anything. And say I was the one that copied him. I was called into a very serious meeting about stealing his project. I told the teachers to ask the rest of the class about who the web page really belongs to and they backed me up. But I never helped anyone else all throughout high school. Bum. I'm hungry. Have any money? Me. No. But I'll buy you a burger at that McDonald's. What do you want? Bum. FCKU. You don't think I'm good enough to pay for my own food? Give me money. Me. I don't carry cash. Bum. I'm going to light you on fire. FCKU. The moment when I was in the age range of 10-14 years old and witnessed firsthand how many acquaintances of my parents would take advantage of their warm hospitality and generosity. It made me sick to my stomach when they wouldn't return the favor. Not even once, despite the fact that my parents have assisted these people in many situations before. From that moment onward, I realized nobody should stand on ceremony. Give and take has lost its meaning. Unfortunately. I used to be the organizer of my friendship group. It was often like herding cats. One day we went to a convention, for which I had made all the arrangements and distributed all the info. We split to go to 2 different panels. Me on my own to one and everyone else to another. We arranged a time and a place to meet afterwards. When the panel ended, I went to the meeting spot and waited. And waited. And waited. Over 45 minutes. No one responded to calls or texts. Finally, One of the group rocked up a full hour after we'd agreed. Turns out that they'd decided to stay on and watch the next panel. And it hadn't even occurred to them to let me know. To say I verbally ripped them up one side and down the other was an understatement. I was furious. I never arranged another outing again. Now when I go somewhere, I tell the ones I'm still friends with show up or don't. Double quote. I stood by my best friend when she cried to me about her husband cheating. And he definitely was cheating. They stayed married and said they work through it. 6 months later she was f***ing my husband behind my back. Not as serious as other answers. Mom yelling at me for not helping. I did all the dishes, made dinner, vacuumed the house, and cleaned the bathrooms all in one day so I didn't have to do it later that week. Very confused. Did you do it all in one day as a reason for you not to do anything for the next 6 days? Because at least one of these looks like they'd be daily chores and each of them done once doesn't seem to me like they really add up to a week's worth of regular chores contributions. Then again, perhaps I misassume how the setting of contributions works in your household. This homeless guy in LA was asking me for money to buy food. So I took him down to a Subway and paid for his meal. It was like his first time there so he had trouble ordering. He added some other stuff on like 3 bags of chips which was annoying but I paid for them anyway. No thank you or anything. He took his food and quickly left. Found him later trying to sell the food for beer at a supermarket down the street. This wasn't a single occurrence. There were many situations like this. Worst was a woman standing outside a supermarket asking for money for her starving baby. I offered to buy baby food for her inside the market and she declined. On closer inspection, it was a fake baby and this Hispanic dude she was with was sitting in his car nearby watching these interactions. Screw LA and the homeless population there. I was an intern at a radio station in 2001. Helped one of the morning show DJs with a bar night at the Mall of America one Saturday night. She was notoriously hated by everyone at the station, but seemed appreciative of my help and we got along that night. As we were cleaning up after close, 1 AM or so, she asked me if I would walk her back to her car for safety. I declined, as I had parked in the opposite parking ramp and had to carry all of the equipment in one trip. She pushed and pressured and confided that she was nervous walking back to her car this late. And after she offered to drive me and the equipment back to the van I agreed. We walked out to her car and continued talking like friends. But as she got to her front door her entire demeanor changed. I actually don't know you that well. And I don't feel safe driving someone I don't know in my car. And she got in her car and left without a thank you or goodbye. Moa had closed. So I had to carry the equipment down that ramp, around the mall, and back up the other ramp to the station's van. Didn't dish tea for her at any other events again, though she was fired a few months after my internship ended. Close bracket. Happened 6 years ago. I was in 4th grade and I volunteered for the past few months to sweep the classroom while everyone was getting in line to head out for the day. Everything was good until this one day when I was sweeping. Someone knocked my book bag off my chair and the other kids just went around it, stepped over it. Like God, I'm cleaning for you guys and you guys just treat my belongings like it's trash. So after that day I literally stooped volunteering and the teacher made other people do it. Yesterday when several grown-ass men yelled at me at work for asking them to wear a mask. I work in a gas station and we finally put a mask mandate into effect yesterday. I'm female and I was by myself. I'm 1000% sure that had one of my male co-workers told them to mask up, they would have immediately complied. Dudes, we're just trying to save lives here.